Alright, so I spent the past week trying to figure out and update the list in a way where we can force responses. With the addition of Diviner, allows us to do so. But I've been conflicted because I want to play the engine requirements that can facilitate the extension and the pivot point in order to implement the speeder lines and the synchrons required for speeder to be elevated to a point where you can do this insane board. Both engine requirements conflict because it produces inconsistencies. I had to make a choice. I played enough games to then I was able to see all of the inconsistencies and it was affecting my win-loss ratio. So I had to make two variants. So the first variant I'm going to show you is just basically implementing Diviner with the Stardust package, implementing the voice engine to allow Diviner and Stardust to be resilient. You'll see what I mean. So something that will be typical, Fua, of course, with them interacting here, because it forces some sort of interaction. And what this is telegraphing is no act, potentially. Because why would you interact with this if you kind of general assumption that Diviner is going to send a fairy, which is most likely going to be Herald, which will give you access to a ritual spell or a ritual monster. So why wouldn't you hold the ask for that unless you didn't have it? Once you get into your Mitsurugi card, imperm doesn't really affect you, but the point is you want to force responses. So he imprims this. I should have sequenced it a little bit different, not let him know that I'm playing Mitsurugi. So I'll just go Stardust, make it even more obscure. I think that's like a minor technical play issue, but it's fine. So then I go in for Illumination, dump my Stardust Synchron, and now this is what I was referring to. Because now if he has Ash, I can block the Ash. So I'm going to get access to my low. So then now it's another imperm, debating if he wants to, because I'm not sure what the hell's happening. Of course he knows that I have this, but let's say I didn't do this first. He'd be like, oh, what the hell's happening? It's Stardust, Tribute to Diviner, what the heck is happening? Chain 1, Chain 2? So they might interact here, they might not. Once you get to this point, this is why it was so appealing to play the Speeder, because this low demands an interaction. Otherwise you're going to get the barrier gets you access to your Omni, potentially. This will demand another interaction. But I drew the barrier, so I had to place the Radiance. It's still a form of interaction regardless. And then I go ahead and go for barrier, get access to Saphira. Saphira discards and the ritual, add one that's mentioned on the ritual, add the Guardian. The Guardian will then be able to be summoned itself. And then I go for Guardian effective search, low revives. I'll search the old guys. It's another form of interaction, which is pretty good. If you don't play this, it makes, you do have the trap, you do have the Omni, but this just being a third interaction is huge. Just be mindful of that. Because you can easily just cut down on it and just not play that. And then now I can resolve my Mitsurugi stuff. And this is going to be game 3. The way I'm pushing towards the Fua is because I'm aware of how their deck can be bottlenecked at a particular point. Because if they don't retain a body, it makes it difficult because their sequencing it needs to get traction. It needs to resolve a few effects before it snowballs out of control and makes your interaction mediocre. So if you can stop them early and remove the bodies, the better it is for you because they can't progress and can't extend. But this is the cool thing about implementing the Stardust card. You just present this obscurity that they're completely unaware about. And then you present them with, oh, that was odd. You can hand rip, you can have your full setup, and you're basically trying to match your interactions to their cards, because not all of the cards that they have will generate something. They're just going to be probably blanks. They're probably going to be redundant cards, extra copies of certain cards that can only be used once per turn. So that's my perspective on it. Okay, what's he going to have? Well, he has 3, 6, 7 cards. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 interactions to his 7 card. That means he has 1 more extra card. Odds are one of them is going to be redundant. So we're matching card for card. So now it's his job to try to, how clever be, produce an obscurity to where I cannot anticipate. And that's how you capitalize. Put myself in a position where if I anticipate correctly, I can checkmate him. That's the whole point. That's why I ended up pushing for the Fua. And one of the cool things about Omega in this variant is being able to return your Saphira, being able to return your trap, because the trap engrave is pretty insane. By you banish a tribute monster and summon a reptile from your graveyard, which is insanely good because most people don't consider this setup. You use it the first time because you revive the prior turn, so it gives you a bit of a grind game. Omega returns it. You have Murakumo that was properly summoned. You just tribute your Omega, then recycle the Omega. It's just insane. And in this case, I want to recycle my Stardust. He's gonna go for Lightning Storm, so I'm like, well, I'm gonna negate that, that's for sure. Then I'm gonna hand rip. He goes for Thrust. I negate that. I want him to deplete his hand, so I'm gonna just go with Purification, negate the card he actually. He discards a Call by the Grave. I'm like, oh, interesting. He goes for Engage. I negate the Engage. I just don't want him to draw 2 and get the card he actually wants. So an easy negate. I get access to revive Murakumo. He goes Tactics. This hand was busted. This hand was pretty busted. Holy crap, that's insane. So then he draws 2. And then this is where he's playing Yummy. And this is what I was referring to, where I know this deck kind of struggles if their body can't stick. So that's why I felt like it's okay to push into the Fua. I'm going to summon my Sarvis, because this means that if he goes for the Link, I just negate the Link and banish it. So he needs another form of extension, which he probably doesn't have. So then he activates the field spell, and I'm like, no, I'm just going to negate that. I'm going to have 2 light rituals. I'm going to pop 2. Get rid of both. He activates Yummy Surprise, summons from hand, and at this point, he just can't progress. Something that I wanted to point out and showcase is the versatility and the synergy that Diviner and can produce. And this is going to be, once again, the pivot options with Diviner and Stardust, because, as I mentioned, you want to make sure that you bait responses early on to allow what you actually want to resolve go unhindered. And this is the perfect example of that. Once again, Perulia, fair enough, okay. I go Diviner. And this is going to threaten the response here. And except this time, he goes for the Ash on the Herald. It's still fine. This would have gotten you access to Hybrid or it would have gone access to your Sarvis to protect from a targeting negation like Veiler or Imperm. But this is perfectly fine. So now that we know that Ash is gone, now we pivot into Stardust. Stardust tribute to the Diviner. The Diviner will summon level 1 fairy. Stardust will search Illumination. And in this case, we're not summoning low. We're summoning Ava, because I'll go through the deck list and I'll show you why this is the way it is. This is how we go for our speeder. You go chain 1, chain 2. So if they had like Improm on the Diviner and had Ash for something else, we go to chain block either way. Perfectly fine. So we're going to trigger Ava, banish 2 fairies to add 2 fairies, which is going to give us access to Herald and another Diviner. And then this is how we check another hand trap, whether it be Nibiru, Veiler, whether it be another monster hand trap. So then we go ahead and resolve Speeder. The only issue here is that we've already used the effect Stardust, so it's kind of weird to use Trail. It should be okay. So now he reviews he has Nib, but I check it with Herald, which is insane. So good, right? And then now we just sequence here. Go into our climb. He impulses, but once you resolve Speeder, almost every other hand trap, unless it's paired with Nib, is mediocre, because you already got so many resources that -1 interactions just don't affect you. And that's why SD sequences are so strong, because once you get to this point, once you resolve Speeder, it's just like you can do as you please. You can do whatever you want. It's just the initiating the Speeder sequence, then preventing you from getting to Speeder and then negating Speeder. That's where the issue is, which is why you need cards that can bait those interactions so you can allow your main objective to resolve. So then I go summon Trail, and this is all going to be very subjective to how you open, what your extra deck looks like. So some of these lines will differ from yours. It's just this is the extra deck that I'm using. And this is something that can be quite common, utilizing Assault Synchron to revive your SD to get access to a high level to synchro climb into the Crimson target, which is what you're going to see now. Going to SMSD. And this is so cool because Trail gives you a token and Dispatter requires a dragon to make it. So that's a pretty cool thing there. We're going to go ahead and revive our Stardust, pitch for Jet, reduce, and go for the Omega. And then we're going to hand rip, revive, hand rip twice. So through these 4 hand traps, we were able to produce a pretty insane board. And thanks to the access or the resources that Diviner can gain access to, which is getting Herald to protect us from the Nibiru. Otherwise, we would have been cooked. I mean, I could have prevented it maybe. I could have just gone Illumination first, assuming that I did not have access to Herald. That's the whole reason we're playing Diviner, because of those lines and because of what it's capable of facilitating. And let me show you another game, because now that you have a general understanding of why we play Diviner, now you can see the other aspects of the deck and how it's meant to function. Because all of these were game 3s, because like the 1s and 2s, it was either like they had a full board, I couldn't break it, or I had a full board and they couldn't break it. It was just like scoop, or they just scoop before anything. So that's why the one that matters was game 3. They stick around for, because that's the one that actually means something. I'm going up against K9 Vanquish Soul. My hand seems kind of cooked, because I opened up my 2 one-ofs. I mean, Saji, like, well, okay, I guess I can get access to the rituals, but like, what am I actually gonna do? It's kind of annoying, but I opened up 2 breakers, and I really like Book. I really like Book versus Vanquish Soul, because if you can time it properly, it makes it to where their stuff doesn't really matter, because everything's gonna be booked. So like if I go Book of Eclipse, I book everything, they chain to bounce whatever they summon from their hand will just be set face down, which is great for us. And this is gonna be a pretty insane board. I draw into oh my god, I drew into Futsu. Like, what is this hand, bro? I'm so vulnerable here. I'm so vulnerable. Like, if this gets stopped, I'm just dead. So I go ahead and clear the back row because I can just book of eclipse everything else, and I'm just hoping that he doesn't have access to like an ash or something because then I'm just cooked. So then he goes, reveals, and I chain book. I don't think it mattered, I guess. He adds Holy. I go normal summon my Saji, activate, and just resolve my Mitsu sequence. And this is where, if you're unfamiliar with Mitsurugi, it's quite simplistic. It seems kind of complex at first, but it's quite simplistic once you get the hang of it. The little guys are the ones that get you to your rituals and your ritual spells, and then your rituals trigger whenever they are tributed and they summon themselves back, and they all basically search each other. Tribute the ritual to ritual something else. You trigger the ritual that you use for the cost, search something, summon it back, and then you just keep doing it over and over again. I destroy this field, and at this point I'm like, does he have another Charmy? Freaking hell. I get access to my prayers, and then this is where he chooses to interact. I choose to use Murakumo to force him to discard a card. It doesn't really matter at this point, it seems. And I just keep triggering my Futsu. And I feel that he has 2 pops, right, within Resin and the other guy. What's the other guy's name? I can't remember the other guy's name. The one that pops a card on the field, right? He goes for Lupus. Lupus makes the Hound. I'm not sure why he went for the Hound, but I guess he thought I couldn't OTK him. So I guess, yeah, it's fair. I guess it's fine. This is the guy. Is this the guy? The one that pops? Yeah. Reveal Earth, Fire, and Dark, destroy and other. Yeah. So this is fine. So this is where the little guys come into play. Where if any of the Mitsu cards were to be destroyed, I can just tribute them instead and protect them. It's like a Balinks. Okay, so he pops. I protect. I go battle phase, clear majority of his board, and now this is why Vampire is insane in this deck, because it allows you to get access to whatever it is that you're missing. So then I go ahead and I hit Stardust. I'm like, yes! Okay, so now I have access to Synchro, and I'm not locked yet, so I can try to climb and get into my SMSD, my Crimson Lines, and hopefully establish something that he can't push through, right? I go and tribute the Vampire, summon my Stardust, go for Jura. So I already have a board wipe here. I'm going to negate this, so it's permanent negate, so it's not going to be boosted anymore. So he can't banish during standby phase either, which is great. And then I go ahead and set 2. I mean, I have prayers that I can revive my Murakumo, so I can have double nuke with Jura and Murakumo, and then this can revive a lot of my names as well. So then I go ahead, use prayers, and he just scoops. So I don't think he can get around the nuke and the Murakumo. Like, it's devastating. This game is pretty funny because this is exactly what I'm trying to depict, right? It's showcasing how insight, or the lack of insight, can cost you. And that's generally where we kind of lie, right? We're kind of a bit of a rogue approach in most of these decks, because otherwise we wouldn't be playing the Synchron cards in the deck, right? It's mainly to present an obscurity to make it a bit more difficult to anticipate against, right? And it's gonna be up against Malice, and my hand is like, okay, my hand's okay. I have access to engine. I have access to both engines. I drew the trap, not ideal. I drew this guy. I drew this guy. Not the craziest hand, but it's a pretty busted hand actually. But okay, so now it's a matter of how can he interact with me and completely stop me, right? And my goal is to make that as difficult as possible. Make it to where he thinks, or he's assuming, that I'm out of resources if he interacts at a particular point. Okay, I stop this. This should hinder his sequence a fair bit. I'm trying to avoid that from happening. Okay? So then I go ahead and I try and resolve as much as I can. I'm trying to get to the nuke as fast as possible. My game plan is to inevitably use these prayers as a reborn to get a level 4 on field, to then go tuning and search for Jet Synchron to then make speeder. That's like my backup plan, right? That's it. I want to bait everything before then to inevitably get to that point, right? That was the whole process of this sequencing, right? And as we go on, we go ritual summon Habikiri. We're gonna go ahead and use mirrors, tribute to Habikiri, chain 1, chain 2, nuke his board. He then activates GWC. I attempt to negate, force him to discard a dead Charmy, which is, I guess, is fine. And up until this point, this is gonna be one of the game ones where we have no clue. I didn't know what he was on. He doesn't know what I'm on, so he doesn't know what to expect, right? And this is where you can capitalize on it. So now I'm trying to just pressure him, right? Let him know that this is the full extent of my sequencing. So what else am I gonna do? So what is he gonna try to do? Use this trap as a form of interaction to protect his card from being destroyed, even though he can easily get it back. But with the lack of insight of what I have in store for him, he's going to interact getting rid of my Murakumo, because it's one of the ways you can interact with Mitsurugi, get rid of their Murakumo, because that's one of the main flaws. So then I'm going to just pressure battle phase here, and if he bites, which is what I expected, he bites, that means he can keep most of his guys, and he revives. I make a mistake here. I shouldn't have attacked that guy. I should have attacked the other one, because then my stats would have stayed the other way around. So yeah, that was my mistake. But nonetheless, the main thing was to bait all of the interactions, right? That was the whole point. Now I reveal the card that is tuning, and he's like, "What the hell?" And I summon, and then I go speeder, right? And now we're here, and now we're trying to produce a big enough board just to clear his board, or just basically make it overwhelming for him to try to push through this board, right? I get back my Murakumo with this batter, which is huge. That's insane. That means my purification has an insane tribute target. I go for Changing. Changing can banish up a used up MALISS name, which is huge. I go ahead and use the effect of SD, revive, so I can trigger the trail. And then I go for Crimson, target, revive. And I was going to make a Herald here. He sees enough, and he's like, okay, well, what the hell even is this? It's just insane. This is crazy, because I have prayers to revive my Murakumo. I can nuke the board. I can negate. I have an Omni. Like, it's just too much for it. But this is a perfect example of how it can be deceptive. So here is the updated list. So as you see, it's a 60 card variant, because I couldn't find a way to fit as much non-engine with a close to 40 card build. Because if you saw in the first version, where I was not playing Diviner, I was not playing the voice pack. But because you're playing Diviner, you need something to float into to make Stardust a proper extender, because otherwise attributing Diviner doesn't really produce anything. And because this in its own right can facilitate an Omni access, is why you play it. That makes your pivots a lot stronger. And then of course you have the engine requirements, and this is the reason why when I was mentioning that you had to reach a compromise where you can't play both. Because if you play a speeder build, that means you have to play the other Synchrons, and then the inconsistencies will just appear just everywhere because of engine requirements. So they clash. They don't really go together. They compound, having the bricky voice cards with the bricky Synchron card, which is not good. So you have to make a choice. You have to choose what you want, and this is the way I find doing so. But nonetheless, it's still going to be 60 cards, because you want a sufficient amount of non-engine to combat and try to simplify, right? Or attempt to go second, which is why you have a lot of these board breaker approaches. Main deck thrust is insane right now because of K9. But first and foremost, you have your Mitsurugi cards. I was debating on whether to play double Murakumo, because sometimes they do banish this and it's kind of annoying to get it back. I think one's fine. One Futsu, of course, and then you have one of one Nagi, one Saji, one Ramasa, and then of course the whole reason why this deck functions together is because the Diviner. It's an insane starter. Being able to just start with Diviner and your Mitsurugi cards with the ritual spell, instead of tributing off the Saji as you typically would, you go summon this effect, send this. This will summon one of these guys. It'll summon this guy. You tribute this instead of this. This will float into this. Get you access to your Omni before you can even resolve your Happy Curie to protect it. That's pretty cool in that sense, assuming you don't pair it with Stardust. But there's multiple ways to pair Diviner with this deck. Of course, you have your voice. I wasn't playing 3 of this until Edward was like, 3 of this. I was like, what does it facilitate? I was like, oh, it's full combo. I was like, what? Yeah? So then I was like, oh yeah, it's true. If you open up this and any of the Mitsurugi cards, that's full combo. Oh, what the hell? That's pretty insane. It's an extender. It gets you access to a ritual spell. It allows you to summon out your Skull Guardian, assuming they stop low, assuming they stop in that sense. So I just ended up maxing it out. At one point, I was main decking Magnum up because it's the dragon that you can surge. And of course, then you have pre-prep, just more copies of more consistency. More consistency. One of these rituals you require to function the entire sequence. Purification, you can choose to play this, you can choose not to play it, but I just want to make the board as strong as possible, make it less bricky. Same thing goes with this, but I feel like the more I test it, because I tested this for this entire week, and without these cards, you are more consistent, but your boards are more breakable. And when you have access to these, I think I won more games than lost because I had this in the deck. Tuning, Stardust, Trail. This one, I debated on cutting, but then she was just becoming an insane extender, especially for the fact that sometimes they wait to ash this, but then you you can chain block. You go Habikiri, summon this, tribute this, trigger this, chain 1, chain 2. And they're like, oh crap, what the hell? Because now you have access to your rituals so that they couldn't ash you anymore. And there are times where this can turn into a rank 4, whether it be a Dagaris or a Guska, which is huge because that means she'll reset herself. She won't get banished if she leaves the field. And then next turn, she'll be there to make an SP line or just find a way to synchro with her. That's why I ended up keeping her. And the Illumination, Stardust, Rumble, because it's part of the sequence. And your hand trap negations, basically. Your non-engine, you have Wallows, Ash, Stuff Wallows, Imperm. This was initially Droll, but then Droll's kind of underwhelming at times. It's good against Mitsu, but I think just having it as a board breaker and just seems okay. Stopping it, just being able to top deck it seems great as well. Just Thrust Target, not too bad. Econ, I was testing it at first. I was like, what does me liking it? But this card's insane. It's just so good, especially now with K9 being around. Because what happens with the K9 is some K9 go as Zuna, the Sun Lupus, and you can like just go enemy controller, the Ripper, assuming they are negated, because obviously you'll bait the Ripper first, and then they'll most likely detach the Lupus because they want the Lupus to be in graveyard for the following turn. So then the targeting protection is no longer there. So you just take the Ripper and then you just link it away. It's so funny. But yeah, the main reason it's there is because it triggers your rituals, because they all have an effect when attributed. Triggers your diviner effect. They try to implement. You chain this. You dump Tis. You take control of their guy. You summon your low. So chain 2 pop. It's a versatile card. Being able to take Caesars, take you. I just think this card is insane. I think it's awesome, and especially in this deck. I think only in this deck in particular. Dropless has been pretty good as well. Dropless just being able to stop Ripper, Zuna, Polysoothe, Thrust right now because of K9 just everywhere. Just being able to just go pack it, insulate your board is wild. Just go take their Ripper. Now you can protect yourself. You basically use their own card against them. It's just so good. And then the extra deck, very minimalistic of synchros. You play this primarily to dump off of Diviner, but there are times you can make it. The Stardust cards, because part of the combo, Omega Trails is insane as well. Being able to return your Trap, as I mentioned in the replay, return your Saphira, return some of your banished Mitsu cards. So good. Jira, it's there for the climb for Crimson, your Omni, Crimson Dragon. The XYZs, I was juggling on this XYZ. I wasn't too sure, but I felt like I needed something else other than Baguska for when I wanted to get to either on-engine or get access to Stardust, and this was perfect. And Baguska for the Zeus line, put an attack where they can attack Zeus, Vampire, 90. I rarely go into this, but it's just good to have. Typhon, you just need Typhon, just generically good. SP, and of course, the side deck is just what I've been testing. I've been liking it so far. This is try it out. I think it's awesome. And then let's get into the speeder build. Okay, so I think this is the one that a majority of you were excited about because, of course, I'm excited for speeder too. But as I mentioned, you can't play both. You can't have voiceless and you can't have the Synchrons all in one deck. I mean, you could risk it. Okay, fine. But you'll see that the more you play it, the more you start bricking. Because I played so many games and I just kept bricking. I was like, oh, this is so annoying. There were games where I didn't brick and it was amazing. But there was less of those games than there were the ones when I was bricking. So that's why I had to choose. Once again, we're not playing 60. We're playing a little bit closer to 40 within 50. As you see there, this is why you play the one Vampire. Because if you do get access to just a one card combo, you can potentially get to your full board. Not to the speeder route, but potentially into getting access to these two. That's why you want to keep 40 compared to the other list, right? Because Vampire is not necessarily like a big thing that you do with the other list. Whereas for this one, even if you do, you kind of want to get to your speeder because you can't really produce anything. You can't go SP, you can't go for the Photon Lord. So you want to get after these guys, right? And then getting access to your milling your Synchrons. And this is going to be a combo based off RNG, a bit of luck, because it is capable of being a one card full combo if you get lucky, right? So this is why you play Vampire. Even in the speeder variant, you play Vampire because even if you just open up with Mitsurugi cards, you can potentially bridge into your Synchron and your Synchros. But once again, it's not a consistent way to do so, but it's what people use it for. It's the same reason why people use Vampire now. It's a way to, to bridge the Millennium into potentially getting access to your Christian cards, mill, right? And the things that you have to mill, right? So first off, you sequence out your Mitsurugi cards, getting access to all your rituals, all the level 8s. And then you make your Vampire with your Habikiri and your Murakumo because if your Futsu can either revive it on their turn, right? And then the Vampire would have to hit the Stardust and the Diviner in order for this to work, right? Because you need to be able to tribute the Diviner off Stardust. And it's very crucial when you go for the prayers, you have to revive before to be able to finish off the sequence. So I go ahead, Stardust effect tribute. Float into Ava. We go into Excel, not Speeder because we're locked. We can't use Speeder's effect because we summoned an XYZ. And then now we just have to find a way to sequence our turn to get something insane. And this is how we do so. Go for charge, get a draw, get a token, That token is quite important because it gives us access to Spatter. And then we go for the Omega. And then we summon the diviner that we searched. We're making it a crystal wing. And one card with a bit of luck. So this is what you can produce if you're able to hit the diviner and the Stardust Synchron. And because you want to be able to pair Stardust with your diviner and pair Stardust with your Amasa, because that gives you access to the full combo, as I showed you guys in the first build where I showed you how to do the combo. If you haven't checked it out, go and check it out. And then another thing to note is the reason why you play more 4s in this build is because you want the ability to use prayers as a form of extension. You want to be able to prayers, discard this, search for Habikiri, and then summon this effect, search another card. Then you have a level 4 that you can go, okay, tuning, search Jet, summon Jet, and go 1 and 4. Basically what we did with Adventure, force before we commit to Speeder, and then this is why this is more copies of this, because you don't necessarily want to see more of these guys. This is like the worst one, so you would rather just see this, because this gives you access to the Habikiri. That's generally how you want to use prayers most of the time. You have your engine requirements for Diviner, instead of having the low and the voices, because the voices package is a lot bigger. This is 1, 2, and then depending if you want to play 3 of this, so that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's 9 engine requirements, right? Compared to 6 for this one. You have these 3 and these 3, so it's less, right? So if you were to combine the bricks for this, I don't know, take your pick. You can choose what variant you want to play. Pre-prep, Artist, Rev, just for speeder summons, trail, tuning. This is for the whole sequence of insulating your play to begin with. When you open up this, this will dump either the Herald to add this or add this, depending if you already have access to this. But most likely you're going to be searching for this to protect your speeder from Imperm or failure or something like that, because then this will take care of the Ash. And then you have Illumination, you have your Foes Burial, because you have more things to dump off of this. You have your Trail, your Jet, your Rev, your Stardust. I mean, in the other variant, I guess you could dump the Saphira, but might as well just open Saphira. Of course, your hand trap negations. You have your Charmy, your Wallows, Ash Blossom, and your Troll. Pretty much it. It's pretty fun, for sure. And then your extra deck, this is just subjective. You can pick your boss monsters. This is the one that I prefer, just like SMSD. Herald, you could make it, but generally it's going to be dumped off of the Diviner. And as I mentioned, the Vampire is just there for the 1 card. Basically gonna be it. Sorry it took a while. I was just trying to figure out and refine it as best I could. Just try it out. That's gonna be it. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe if you haven't, and thanks for watching.